Have you ever felt misunderstood or distanced by those around you as you grow older? Maybe your well-meaning advice is misinterpreted, or your once strong relationships with family and friends seem to fade. It's frustrating when the people you care about don't seem to see you the way they used to. But why does this happen? Why do some people seem to pull away, or worse, judge you based on things that have nothing to do with who you are? If you've been feeling disconnected, frustrated, or even hurt by these changes, you're not alone, and this video is for you. If you are not subscribed, I recommend subscribing and activating the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support means a lot to me, and if you enjoyed this video, you can help me continue spreading the valuable lessons by liking and sharing it. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. 1. The challenge of being misunderstood. As the years go by, something subtle but significant begins to change. Conversations that once felt natural, flowing with ease and mutual understanding, now seem to fall into an uncomfortable silence. You may find that your well-intended advice is met with defensiveness, or your light-hearted jokes that once brought laughter now fall flat, leaving an awkward pause in their wake. There's a growing sense of confusion that creeps in, almost as though the world around you has started speaking a language you no longer fully understand. Have you ever felt that twinge of frustration when your words, carefully chosen and full of good intentions, are misinterpreted? Or when a seemingly simple conversation takes a turn that leaves you wondering, why don't they get me? It's a deeply disorienting feeling, one that makes you question if you've somehow lost your place in a world that seems to be evolving without you. It's so easy to start doubting yourself in moments like these. Perhaps you feel a pang of isolation as some people seem to shy away from more meaningful, deeper exchanges. Why do they seem to prefer surface-level chatter over anything that involves real connection? It's a question that lingers in your mind, churning in the background, making you feel increasingly disconnected from the world you once thought you understood. What happened? You might ask yourself. Why have things changed? The truth, however, is often more complicated than we'd like to admit. The differences that cause these misunderstandings often lie in the generational gap between you and others. What you've learned over the years, the importance of honesty, and the straightforwardness that comes with experience, might not always resonate with younger generations. They've grown up in an environment where communication is often more nuanced, more sensitive to tone, and sometimes wrapped in layers of politeness or even avoidance. This shift doesn't mean you're wrong or that you've somehow failed in your ability to communicate. Rather, it reflects the different experiences that have shaped each of us in unique ways. Generations have developed their languages, shaped by the cultural, social, and technological shifts that define their era. And sometimes, these languages don't quite match up. As these gaps in understanding continue to grow, it's easy to feel like you're speaking to a brick wall, where frustration, confusion, and even resentment slowly build up on both sides. There's a palpable sense of disconnection that becomes more and more difficult to ignore, and the longer it goes unresolved, the harder it becomes to repair. The isolation can feel suffocating, making you question if anyone truly understands you anymore. But here's the thing, the very fact that we're aware of these differences gives us a chance to bridge them. Yes, it can be difficult and draining, and there may be moments where it feels like you're fighting an uphill battle. But it's not impossible. If both sides are willing to meet halfway, open up, and truly listen to each other, these divides can be mended. It takes patience, empathy, and a willingness to adapt. And most importantly, it requires that we remember that misunderstandings aren't a sign of failure. They're an opportunity for growth. 2. The pain of feeling overlooked. The pain of feeling overlooked is a quiet, yet deeply painful ache that creeps into the heart. It's a sorrow that's difficult to express, but one that resonates deeply with anyone who's ever poured their love, time, and energy into those they care about, only to feel invisible in return. As life moves forward, we naturally desire recognition, not in an egotistical sense, but as a way to feel that our efforts, our love, and our wisdom have made a difference. We want to know that what we've given to the people we love has mattered, and that the years we've spent sacrificing, caring, and sharing have somehow left a lasting impression. But then, as time passes, there are moments when it feels like all of that is taken for granted. The very people we've given so much of ourselves to, our families, our friends, our colleagues, seem to become so absorbed in their own busy lives that they forget the depths of our sacrifices. Once close family members may drift away, lost in their concerns, while friends who once celebrated our successes no longer seem to notice our accomplishments. It's as though we've been pushed to the sidelines, our presence reduced to background noise in the ever-growing symphony of their own lives. And what's worse, there's this haunting feeling that they no longer value our input, our experiences, or the wisdom we've gathered over the years. Have you ever wondered why the people you've always been there for seem so distant, so consumed with their own lives? Have you ever found yourself questioning why your once cherished insights, the lessons you've learned through years of struggle and growth, seem to fall on deaf ears? It's not just about seeking validation or a pat on the back. It's about the emotional connection, the recognition that we've been present for others in ways that truly matter. When that connection fades, it feels like an emotional void, one that lingers in the heart, making us question our significance. The pain is not just about the lack of recognition. It's about the sense of loss. Loss of closeness, loss of belonging, loss of feeling seen and understood. The things we do for others, the small acts of kindness, the thoughtful gestures, the deep conversations, the support we offer in times of need. These are all things that define who we are, yet, when they go unnoticed, we begin to feel invisible. And we wonder, does it mean we've lost our place in their hearts? Does it mean we no longer matter? But here's the painful truth. It's not because we've lost our value or importance. The reality is far more bittersweet. People get lost in the whirlwind of their own lives. They are often caught up in the rush of their daily responsibilities, their emotional struggles, their aspirations, and their dreams. Amid this chaos, they forget to stop and acknowledge the steady presence that's been there all along. They forget to appreciate the one who has been a constant source of support, love, and wisdom. And though it may feel like a personal betrayal, it's often not a deliberate act of neglect. It's simply that they've become so engulfed in their world that they no longer see or feel the presence of others in the way they once did. This doesn't make the hurt go away. It may deepen the wound. But understanding this truth, while not easy, can help soften the sting. It's a reminder that while we may not always receive the recognition or appreciation we deserve, it doesn't diminish the value of what we give. Sometimes, the ones we love become so immersed in their journeys that they forget to turn around and see the love we've been offering all along. This, too, is a part of life. But it doesn't mean we should stop loving, stop giving, or stop sharing our wisdom. Even when it feels like no one is watching, our worth remains, quietly, steadfastly, and beautifully, just as it always has been. 3. The weight of rumors and gossip. The weight of rumors and gossip can feel unbearable at times. Have you ever had that sinking feeling, that gut-wrenching realization, that people might be talking about you behind your back? Spreading stories, fabricating truths, and twisting your words in ways that don't even remotely reflect who you truly are? It's as if a shadow is cast over you, clouding the way others perceive you based on things that were never true to begin with. There's something uniquely painful about gossip, especially when it comes from people you thought you could trust. Neighbors, family, old friends. These are the people who should have your back, not be the ones feeding into the gossip mill. But, sadly, in tightly knit communities, where everyone knows everyone else's business, this kind of behavior seems all too common. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. The worst part is how these rumors don't just float around casually, they stick. They cling to your reputation, shaping how others see you without them ever taking the time to hear your side of the story. People begin to treat you differently, as if you're guilty of something you didn't even do. It's frustrating. It feels completely unjust, as if your very essence is being distorted by words you never even said. You want to scream out, to defend yourself, but amid all the whispering, your voice gets lost in the noise. So, why do people gossip in the first place? It's a question I've asked myself countless times. Sometimes it feels like it's less about you and more about their struggles. It's about their insecurities, their fears, and the stories they tell themselves to make sense of the world. Gossip, in many ways, is an escape, a way for people to momentarily feel better about their shortcomings by tearing someone else down. It's a sad truth that many times, it has nothing to do with you at all. It could be their boredom or their jealousy, driving them to create unnecessary drama, to find flaws where none exist. They want to feel superior, even if it means dragging you into their world of fabricated lies. Then, some gossip because they simply don't understand. They've made assumptions about you based on their limited perspective, and instead of coming to you to understand your truth, they've chosen to believe the worst. It's as if, in their minds, the gaps in their knowledge are filled with the worst-case scenario. And while you may sit there, heartbroken, feeling misunderstood, the fact remains, they never bothered to ask you for your side of the story. The silence between you and them grows wider, and the weight of those rumors continues to bear down on your soul, leaving you feeling isolated and alone. It's one of the harshest, most unfair realities of life. How easily rumors can destroy someone's peace, their sense of self, and their relationships with others. And yet, the people who spread them rarely stop to think about the damage they cause. It's a painful reminder that words hold incredible power. Power to build up or tear down. 4. The burden of jealousy. The burden of jealousy is a subtle, yet powerful force that can weigh heavily on the hearts of both the person who feels it and the one who is unaware of it. Have you ever experienced the uncomfortable sensation of someone acting strangely around you, as if they're harboring an invisible discomfort or distance? It's perplexing, isn't it? It might not be anything you've done. In fact, it could have nothing to do with your actions at all. Instead, it could be that you unknowingly represent something they lack, something they desire deeply but feel they can never attain. Whether it's your hard-earned success, your deep and loving relationships, or even your sense of calm confidence in situations where others might crumble, these things can unknowingly stir feelings of envy and jealousy that quietly fester in the background. So why does this happen? Why do people experience such negative emotions when they see another person thriving? To understand it, you must first realize that jealousy often has very little to do with the person they are envious of. Instead, it's rooted in their inner turmoil, their unspoken pain, and their unmet desires. Think about it. Perhaps your financial stability serves as a constant reminder to them of their ongoing struggles to make ends meet, or your unshakable family bonds highlight the void and isolation they feel in their relationships. It's not that they wish you harm, it's simply that your successes shine a spotlight on what they feel they are missing in their own lives, and the emptiness it creates can manifest as jealousy. This feeling isn't just about material things. It's about emotions and dreams that remain unfulfilled. When someone envies you, it's not merely the possessions they desire, but rather the sense of security, joy, and accomplishment that seems to accompany them. And as frustrating as it may be, this emotion is not something you can easily control. It's a reflection of their internal battles, a cry for something they wish they had but feel they can never reach. In a way, they are suffering in silence, caught between their longing for what they see in you and their inability to realize those desires within their own life. The emotional toll this can take is not just on the person who feels the jealousy, but also on the one who unwittingly becomes the object of it. It can leave you questioning what you've done wrong, wondering if your success has somehow created a rift in your relationships. The truth, however, is that you haven't done anything wrong. The jealousy others feel is a reflection of their pain and unmet aspirations, not your wrongdoing. If anything, it's a reminder of how much we, as human beings, are driven by our desires and dreams, and how fragile our sense of self-worth can be when we feel we are falling short. 5. The clash of values. Have you ever found yourself struggling to connect with the younger generation, feeling like the things that have shaped your life and defined your identity are increasingly seen as outdated or even irrelevant? The values that once seemed universal, values like hard work, discipline, respect for tradition, and the importance of family are now often viewed through a very different lens. As time moves forward, these beliefs that you've carried for decades might appear out of sync with the rapidly changing world around us. It can feel like your deeply held ideals are misunderstood, misjudged, or even dismissed. This creates a quiet, yet palpable tension, a disconnect between two worlds that feel farther apart with each passing year. The clash of values between generations is a source of profound emotional frustration. You may have spent your life honing the virtues of persistence, responsibility, and dedication, only to see them questioned by those who seem to prioritize convenience, instant gratification, or individual freedom above all else. It's disheartening to realize that the very principles that gave your life meaning and structure might be viewed as irrelevant in today's fast-paced, ever-evolving landscape. How can we reconcile such deeply ingrained differences? Can there truly be a bridge built between these seemingly incompatible worlds, or are we destined to drift further apart as time continues to pull us in different directions? The root of this friction lies in the personal nature of our values. The beliefs we hold dear are often shaped by years, even decades, of experience, by the hardships we've faced, the lessons we've learned, and the love and sacrifices we've encountered. To have someone dismiss these values can feel like an attack on our very identity. It's not just an abstract difference of opinion. It's as though they're questioning the essence of who we are and what we've lived through. On the other hand, younger generations, raised in an era of rapid technological advancements and shifting cultural norms, may find themselves valuing things like flexibility, innovation, and personal freedom. These values may seem essential to their sense of self, but they can also feel at odds with the more traditional principles you hold so close to your heart. It's easy to see how this generational divide leads to misunderstanding, frustration, and, at times, even resentment. I can't help but wonder, are we really that different? Or is it simply that the world has changed so rapidly that the values we once shared have now become fragmented, viewed through different perspectives? Perhaps there's room for compromise, where we can embrace both tradition and innovation. But the question remains, how can we ensure that the wisdom we've gained over the years is not lost, but instead is passed down in a way that resonates with the next generation? This clash of values, painful as it may be, holds the potential to foster understanding and growth, if only we take the time to listen, to reflect, and to truly hear each other out. 6. Struggles with empathy. Have you ever experienced that overwhelming sense that the world is moving so quickly, so relentlessly, that it's almost impossible for anyone to truly see or understand you? It's as if life is constantly racing forward, and in the rush, we are all left trailing behind, unheard and unnoticed. There are times when, despite being surrounded by family or colleagues, you feel more invisible than ever. Family members, with their never-ending to-do lists and their minds preoccupied with their concerns, rush through conversations as if they're checking off a box. The conversation might be brief, transactional, or worse, shallow, an exchange of words without depth, without connection. You try to express something that matters to you, only to be met with distracted nods or brief responses that make you feel like you don't truly exist in that moment. Then there are strangers, passing you by without a second thought, completely unaware of the personal struggles you might be carrying in your heart. They don't see the weight of the burden you're carrying, and in their ignorance, you're left to face it alone. These moments can be heartbreaking. It's not that anyone is intentionally dismissing you or your pain. It's just that, in the blur of their busy lives, empathy seems to have become an afterthought. It's easy to feel like empathy is a rare and fleeting commodity, something that we all long for but can rarely find. But the lack of understanding isn't always rooted in cruelty. It's more often the result of a society that moves too fast, a world that demands more and more of us, pulling us in every direction until we forget the simple act of truly seeing one another. Empathy, the deep, human connection that allows us to understand each other's emotions and experiences, is something that we don't often make time for. We are so caught up in our rush, trying to balance work, family, health, and our own goals, that we forget to stop and think about what the person next to us might be going through. Life has become a sprint, not a marathon, and in this race, We are often too busy to look to the side and check in on those around us. But why does this happen? Why do so many of us struggle to offer empathy, even when we know how important it is? There's no single answer, but I believe one of the main reasons is that we've become disconnected, not just from each other, but from our humanity. As technology continues to advance, and as the demands of modern life increase, we've learned to compartmentalize our emotions and experiences. We keep them in neat little boxes, hidden away from the world so we can function at full speed. But this comes at a cost: the emotional distance it creates between us and others. In our quest to keep up with the world, we forget how to pause, how to reflect, and how to put ourselves in someone else's shoes. This problem is particularly prevalent between generations. Younger people, in particular, might struggle to understand the challenges that come with aging, because they haven't yet experienced it themselves. They may look at their parents or grandparents and not fully grasp the toll that time has taken on them, physically or emotionally. They may not realize how difficult it is to keep up with the demands of a fast-paced world when your body doesn't move the way it used to. Aging brings with it a slew of challenges: slower movements, aching joints, and a growing list of health concerns. But beyond the physical, there's the emotional toll that aging takes. The loss of friends, the isolation that sometimes comes with retirement, and the quiet grief of knowing that time is running out. Younger people may not be able to relate to these experiences yet, and so they may inadvertently dismiss the pain of those who are older, simply because they don't fully understand it. And this isn't just about physical aging. It's about the silent emotional battles that people face every day. The grief of losing a loved one, the anguish of watching a friend suffer in silence, the quiet loneliness that creeps in when life feels like it's passing you by. These are struggles that can often go unnoticed, especially in a world that prizes productivity and outward success above all else. How often do we stop to think about what someone else is going through? How often do we pause, even for a moment, to check in with the person standing next to us, to ask how they are doing? The answer, unfortunately, is rarely enough. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. So, how do we address this lack of empathy, this emotional disconnect that seems to be growing wider each day? For one, I think we all need to learn how to slow down. I know it's not easy in our fast-paced world, where every minute feels like it's filled with 1,000 things to do, but slowing down, even for just a moment, can make a world of difference. It's about taking a breath and permitting ourselves to truly connect with others. It's about listening not just to the words people are saying, but to the feelings behind them. It's about noticing the things that often go unnoticed: the tired eyes, the clenched fists, the quiet sighs. These are the signs that someone needs empathy, that they need to be seen. We also need to remember that empathy isn't just about feeling sorry for someone. It's about truly understanding and sharing their feelings. It's about putting ourselves in their position and imagining how they must be feeling, without judgment or assumptions. This is especially important for younger generations, who may not yet fully understand what it's like to struggle with aging or personal loss. But it's not just about the older generation either. Empathy should flow both ways. The older generation needs to understand the unique challenges faced by younger people, who may be dealing with issues like career pressures, social anxiety, or the fear of an uncertain future. Both sides need to make an effort to see each other, to listen, and to try to understand. Empathy is an essential part of what makes us human. It's what connects us, what binds us together even when everything else seems to pull us apart. And while it may seem difficult at times to find empathy in a world that moves so quickly, I truly believe that it's possible. We just have to make the effort. It's up to us to slow down, to be present, and to show the world that we care about each other. Not just in the easy moments, but in the hard ones too. Empathy isn't just a nice thing to have. It's a lifeline. It's the bridge between our struggles and our healing, the one thing that can help us find our way back to one another, no matter how far apart we may feel. 7. The quiet rivalries. Have you ever felt that subtle, uncomfortable sense that someone close to you is competing with you in some quiet, unspoken way? It's not a rivalry with clear stakes or a visible prize to win. No one is standing on a podium, claiming victory or defeat. Yet, there is a lingering tension, a feeling of being measured, compared, and evaluated in a way that feels both personal and inexplicable. It could be a sibling who, despite outwardly expressing love and support, subtly judges your family relationships, questioning why yours seem more harmonious or effortless than theirs. Or it could be a friend who, under the guise of casual conversation, constantly brings up their health, achievements, or milestones, almost as if they're silently gauging how they stack up against you. These are not overt, dramatic battles, but rather quiet, internal competitions, rivalries that exist in the spaces between words and gestures. What's even more perplexing is that these quiet rivalries don't seem to vanish with time. As we grow older, we may hope that maturity will bring a sense of peace and a release from these subtle struggles. But in reality, they often take on more elusive forms. These rivalries may become harder to detect, masked by politeness, but their presence is felt all the same. They manifest in the little things, the overly frequent updates on someone's latest achievement, the subtle but consistent comparisons, or the odd feeling that you're somehow being sized up, whether it's regarding your career, your family, or your overall life choices. It's as though there's an invisible scoreboard in the background, and despite everyone claiming to just be happy for you, the underlying competition remains, quiet and simmering just beneath the surface. In my experience, these types of rivalries are often driven by feelings of insecurity, feelings that go much deeper than surface-level jealousy. It's not that the person competing against you necessarily wishes to see you fail or wishes to outshine you for the sake of dominance. No, what truly fuels these rivalries is often an inner dissatisfaction, a feeling of not measuring up, of not being enough in their own eyes. We all have areas of our lives where we feel unsure, incomplete, or unfulfilled, and these quiet rivalries are, in a way, a reflection of those insecurities. When someone sees the way you juggle work, family, and a healthy lifestyle, for instance, it can cast a stark light on the areas of their life where they feel lacking. Perhaps they're struggling with their career ambitions, feeling stuck in a job that doesn't bring them joy, or they might be dealing with a strained family relationship that constantly causes them stress. Your success, your happiness, your ability to live a fulfilling life, it all becomes a mirror to their struggles, and unfortunately, not everyone can handle that reflection with grace. This is what makes these quiet rivalries so emotionally complex and, at times, so painful. They are not always about wanting to be better than you. Rather, they're about not feeling good enough in comparison to you. It's not about competing with you per se. It's about competing with their version of themselves. It's about them seeing something in your life that they admire, something they wish they had, but feel they can never reach. It's an internal conflict they may never express, but it seeps into the dynamics of the relationship. They may smile and congratulate you, but behind the smile, there could be a twinge of envy, a quiet desire to match or surpass what you've achieved. It's not that they want to take something away from you, it's that they want to prove something to themselves. They want to feel that they, too, can reach the heights you've reached, even if it means quietly measuring every detail of your life against theirs. In these situations, it's easy to feel hurt, confused, or even frustrated. Why should your success make someone else feel threatened? Why does it sometimes feel like your happiness becomes a source of discomfort for others? I've come to realize that these feelings, while difficult, are rooted in personal struggles that have little to do with you. It's not about you being too successful or too happy. It's about your battles with self-worth, achievement, and identity. And while it may be tempting to react defensively or withdraw from those who seem to be competing with you, the better approach, I believe, is to offer empathy instead. Understanding that their behavior comes from a place of insecurity can help soften the sting of their words or actions. But that doesn't mean we should ignore or dismiss the impact that these quiet rivalries can have on our emotional well-being. Recognizing them is the first step, acknowledging that the people we care about may, without even realizing it, be struggling with their own sense of inadequacy in relation to us. And when we recognize this, it becomes easier to separate their feelings from our own. We must remind ourselves that their quiet competition is not a reflection of our worth, but a reflection of their internal struggles. So, what can we do to address these subtle rivalries? How do we navigate relationships where competition seems to quietly simmer beneath the surface? In my opinion, the key lies in fostering open, honest communication. While it might be uncomfortable, having conversations about our feelings, our vulnerabilities, our insecurities, can help dissolve the silent tension. By allowing space for vulnerability, we create opportunities for connection and understanding. We can also remind ourselves that we are not in competition with others. Life isn't a race or a game where only one person can win. We are all on different journeys, each with our struggles and successes, and recognizing that is crucial. Ultimately, I think it's important to understand that these quiet rivalries aren't necessarily a sign that someone doesn't care about you. They might care deeply, but also be silently wrestling with their insecurities. The question is not whether to compete, but how to support one another in the face of those insecurities, to lift each other rather than create more distance between ourselves. When we can shift our mindset from competition to collaboration, from measuring to celebrating, the quiet rivalries can fade, and we can focus on what truly matters: the connections we make, the lives we touch, and the love we share. 8. The challenge of shifting relationships. The challenge of shifting relationships is a deeply emotional experience that many of us encounter, though it is often something we are unprepared for. As time passes, relationships, whether with close friends, family members, or even long-term partners, undergo subtle transformations, and these shifts can be painful, perplexing, and difficult to navigate. It's a natural part of life, but that doesn't make it any easier to process when it happens. You may notice that someone you once felt a strong bond with, perhaps a friend you confided in or a relative who was a constant presence in your life, has started to distance themselves. Or you might find that someone who once relied on you, sharing their struggles and seeking your support, now seems to be pulling away without any explanation or clear reason. At first, you may brush it off, thinking it's just a phase or a busy time in their life. But as the distance grows, the feeling of confusion and hurt begins to set in. This feeling of growing apart can be unsettling, almost like a slow, silent drift that occurs beneath the surface of your interactions. You may begin to question yourself, wondering if you said or did something wrong, or if you've somehow failed to live up to the expectations of that relationship. It's as though a bond that was once so secure and tangible starts to unravel in ways you can't quite grasp. Perhaps you start to overthink every interaction, reading into every word or gesture, searching for clues about what went wrong. There's a sense of helplessness that accompanies this, as you are left feeling like you're not just losing the connection, but also the sense of certainty and security that came with it. Relationships are always evolving, but it's only when these shifts are sudden or unexpected that they catch us off guard. People change over time, and so do their needs and priorities. It's not always about something overt, like a fight or a falling out, but rather the quiet evolution of individual lives. As people grow, they experience new perspectives, new ideas, and new ways of looking at the world. These changes can subtly alter the dynamics of their relationships. It's difficult to accept, but relationships don't always stay in the same place. Sometimes, as people change, they may outgrow certain relationships, and it can feel as though they no longer need you in the same way they once did. When this happens, it can feel like a sharp loss, even though no one's physically walked away. The emotional distance feels just as real, if not more painful, than the physical one. From personal experience, I can say that dealing with the realization that relationships are not as they once were is one of the hardest parts of life. It's heartbreaking to watch a connection fade away, especially when there's no clear reason why. You may wonder if it's something you could have done differently, if you could have been a better friend, or more present, or perhaps more understanding. But what's crucial to realize is that change is an inherent part of life. Relationships, just like people, are not static. They evolve, and sometimes they outgrow their current form. The pain comes from the feeling of losing something that once felt secure and stable, but the truth is that change is necessary for growth. It might be painful, but it can also open doors to new experiences, new people, and new understandings. What makes this especially difficult to handle is the uncertainty that accompanies it. When a relationship begins to shift, you might not know how to respond. Should you reach out, hoping to rekindle the connection? Should you give them space, thinking that they might need time to figure things out on their own? It's easy to feel torn, caught between wanting to hold on to what you once had and acknowledging that it may not be what it was anymore. There's a deep sense of sadness that comes with this realization, but also a certain amount of fear. The fear of letting go and the fear of being left behind. You might fear that, as you try to adapt to the changes, you risk losing the person altogether. However, it's important to remember that relationships, like all things in life, have their seasons. Some last a lifetime, while others are meant to be temporary, helping us learn valuable lessons along the way. And sometimes, even though it's incredibly difficult, the best thing you can do is to let go. By letting go, you make room for growth, not only for the other person but for yourself as well. It's hard to let go, especially when there are so many memories and shared experiences that make the bond feel irreplaceable. But, in my opinion, it's through these painful moments of loss that we discover our strength. We learn that while relationships are important, they do not define us. Our ability to adapt, to understand that change is inevitable, and to accept that some things are out of our control is what truly helps us grow. This is the paradox of shifting relationships. The deeper the connection, the more painful it is to see it evolve or fade, but evolution is a necessary part of both our journeys and the journeys of those around us. It's hard to accept, but it is through this discomfort that we learn about ourselves, our boundaries, and our capacity for love. Even when relationships change or end, the experiences they give us, the lessons learned, and the growth fostered are not lost. They remain with us, woven into the fabric of who we are. And though it might hurt now, over time, you begin to see that these changes, though painful, are ultimately a chance for renewal, both for you and for the other person. So, as hard as it may be, embrace the shifts in your relationships, not as a loss, but as an opportunity for growth and transformation. 9. The emotional burden of aging. Aging is a profound and intricate experience that touches not just the body, but also the very essence of our emotions and identity. As we grow older, it's impossible to ignore the physical changes that come with time, the slow loss of energy, the creaking joints, the fine lines that gradually carve themselves into our faces. But while these physical transformations are visible and often acknowledged, the emotional toll of aging is just as significant, yet far less discussed. It's a silent burden that we carry within, and for many, it can be even more difficult to cope with than the physical changes. Aging often brings with it a wave of emotions that may not always be understood, both by ourselves and by those around us. As the years pass, a deep sense of loss begins to seep in. It's not always an obvious loss. It's the gradual fading of the self we once knew so well. There's a profound nostalgia for the person we once were, the version of ourselves that was full of vitality, ambition, and an unwavering sense of possibility. When we look back at our younger years, we often see a landscape filled with hope, dreams, and a sense of control over our destiny. But with age, that landscape begins to change. The once unshakable confidence in our physical abilities begins to wane, and we are faced with the reality that our bodies no longer work the way they used to. The things we could do without thinking are now more challenging, and the future no longer feels as bright or certain as it once did. This can leave us feeling disoriented, uncertain, and, at times, deeply sad. However, what can be even more difficult to deal with is the emotional isolation that often accompanies the aging process. Many times, these feelings of loss and sadness are misunderstood, especially by younger generations. They may see us as merely getting old, without truly understanding the complex emotions tied to aging. To them, aging might simply be a part of life, but to us, it's a deeply personal experience. One that brings with it a sense of mourning not just for the passing of time, but for the life we've lived and the people we've become. They may not realize how difficult it can be to face the diminishing of our dreams or the fear of a future that feels out of our control. At times, they may see our reflections on the past as signs of regret or longing for something unreachable, but in reality, they are expressions of the deep emotional work that aging demands. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. How then do we navigate the emotional burdens of aging? The first step is to allow ourselves to fully acknowledge these feelings, without guilt or shame. It is easy to feel that we must remain strong or positive at all times, and that showing vulnerability is a sign of weakness. But the truth is that embracing and accepting our emotions is a powerful act of self-compassion. We must remember that these feelings of sadness, loss, and even fear are not weaknesses. They are natural, human responses to the passage of time. It is okay to feel sorrow over the changes in our lives. It is okay to grieve the things we can no longer do, the dreams that may never come to fruition, or the people who have passed on. Mourning the passage of time is not a reflection of failure, but of the richness of a life lived. The more we accept these emotions, the more we can begin to process them in a healthy way, rather than letting them fester and weigh us down. Talking about these emotions can be a powerful tool in navigating the emotional complexities of aging. Sharing our experiences with others, whether it's with family, friends, or even strangers, creates an opportunity for connection and understanding. Unfortunately, many people, especially the younger generations, are often not equipped to handle or understand the emotional depth that aging can bring. But by expressing our thoughts openly, we give them a chance to learn. We allow them to see our perspective, to understand that aging is not just about physical changes but also emotional growth and adjustment. When we share our stories, whether it's about the joys of youth, the regrets of lost opportunities, or the beauty of wisdom gained with age, we help others appreciate the emotional complexity of aging. By allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, we offer others the chance to connect with us on a deeper level. This act of vulnerability is not only liberating for ourselves but also beneficial for the people around us. It creates an environment of empathy, where our emotions are seen as valid, not as burdens, but as a part of the human experience that binds us together. And through this shared understanding, we can help break the isolation that often accompanies aging. Instead of feeling misunderstood, we can feel seen, heard, and supported. We can form deeper bonds with the people around us, and through our honesty, we can teach the younger generations about the value of emotional honesty and the beauty of accepting the fullness of the human experience, both the joys and the sorrows. Moreover, talking about aging openly can also be empowering. By taking ownership of our emotions and experiences, we regain a sense of control over the narrative of our lives. We no longer allow aging to be a source of shame or something to be feared. Instead, we can embrace it as a part of our unique journey, a journey that is filled with moments of loss but also moments of great wisdom, peace, and understanding. Our stories, our emotions, and our experiences are worth sharing, and in doing so, we not only lighten our emotional burden but also offer others the opportunity to walk with us on this path of life. As we come to the end of this discussion, I want to take a moment to reflect on everything we've shared. Aging is a journey, one that touches both our bodies and our hearts. We've explored how the passing of time can stir feelings of sadness, loss, and nostalgia, and how these emotions are often misunderstood. But most importantly, we've learned that embracing these feelings, talking about them openly, and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable is a powerful way to heal and connect with others. It's a reminder that we are all on this journey together and that sharing our experiences can help bridge the emotional gaps between generations. So, what have you learned so far? What is one thing you will take away from this video and begin practicing in your own life? I invite you to reflect on it and share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and found it valuable, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Your support means the world to us, and we can't wait to continue this journey together with you. Thank you for watching.